Hey everyone. So we are talking about different theories of learning this week. And these can be really tricky to keep straight. There's a lot of terminology, there's a lot of if this, then that. So I wanted to do videos on two topics this week. The first is going to be differentiating reinforcements from punishments and the positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement, positive punishment versus negative punishment. And then the second one is going to be on the classical conditioning terminology. What is a conditioned stimulus versus an unconditioned stimulus? A conditioned response versus an unconditioned response. So this first video is on punishments and reinforcements. So I will minimize myself here so you can see my slides. So the first thing to think about when it comes to punishment versus reinforcement is what is the motivation? The goal of reinforcements are to repeat the behaviors, R and R. If I am reinforcing something, I like what has just happened, and this is what I want you to keep doing. I want my kids to keep sharing their toys. I want my dog to sit when I tell her to sit or heel when I tell her to heel on a walk, right? Something has happened. I like it. I want it repeated. Or maybe it's not even intentional like that. Maybe it's I'm behaving in a way that's going to motivate that behavior to be repeated, which we'll get to that in just a minute. And then punishments. The motivation of punishment is to put a stop to or prohibit, whichever is easier for you to remember. So R and R, P and P. So punishment, I want to put a stop to the behavior. Okay. I want my child to stop screaming. I want my dog to stop barking. The positive or negative refers to the method that you're going to go about doing this. Positive, the positive symbol equals addition, right? Positive means you are adding something to the equation. I am introducing something that's going to make it more likely that you repeat or stop the behavior. Negative, the symbol for negative is the dash, which is also the subtraction sign. You're taking away. I'm taking away something that's going to encourage you to repeat that behavior, or I'm taking away something that's going to put a stop to that behavior. So, where that gets us is positive punishment. It's positive, so you're adding. It's punishment, so you're trying to put a stop to. So positive punishment, you are adding something unpleasant to put a stop to a behavior. An example with this would be people who train animals using shock collars. I have lots of opinions about that. That's not the point right now. But what you're doing is you are adding an unpleasant feeling. You are adding something unpleasant to stop that dog from barking or to stop whatever animal it is you're training from doing a behavior that you don't want them to do. Similar to like using, if you're walking, like using a choke collar on a dog, right? Trying to get the dog to walk better. When the dog pulls, they get that choking sensation from the collar tightening. That is an unpleasant sensation. You don't want them pulling on your leash, on their leash. You're adding something unpleasant to put a stop to a behavior that you do not like. A lot of my examples are dog training based. I have a little rescue dog. She has taken a whole lot of training. So that's an easy example for me to come up with right now. Negative punishment, on the other hand, we're negative, so we're subtracting. We're punishment, we're trying to put a stop to. Subtracting something pleasant to put a stop to a behavior. I do not like that my kids were not sharing each other, so I took one of their favorite toys away from both of them. I took away something they enjoy. I took away something pleasant with the motivation of stopping a behavior that they did not like. You were throwing a fit, so we do not go and get ice cream tonight. I'm taking away something pleasant to put a stop to behavior. Positive reinforcement, I'm positive, so I'm adding. I'm reinforcement, so I'm encouraging a repeat, right? I love how well you were sharing with your sister. You guys played really nice today. We're all going to go get ice cream. You behaved well. I want you to repeat the way that you acted today. So I'm going to add in something that's pleasant for you. Getting a raise at work, right? You have been here on time every day. You have been a hard worker. You're going to get the maximum amount of raise that you're qualified for on this round of evaluations. Something pleasant was added to you to encourage a repeat of that behavior. Same thing with being able to earn like bonuses with your commissions at work and stuff, right? You were doing really good with your sales. We're going to add something pleasant to encourage you to keep acting like that. Negative reinforcement is subtracting something unpleasant to encourage a repeat of a behavior. Negative, subtracting, reinforcement, repeat. Subtracting something unpleasant to encourage a repeat of a behavior. If you've ever heard people say, like, if a kid is throwing a tantrum and a parent gives into the tantrum, you're giving them negative reinforcement. That's kind of true depending on what perspective that you're looking at it. The parent has just been negatively reinforced, right? The kid is screaming because she wants her iPad back if her iPad's been taken away. Kid is screaming, kid is screaming, kid is screaming. Parent is tired of hearing the child scream. Parent gives the iPad back to the kid so that the kid will stop screaming. The parent has just had something unpleasant subtracted, right? Kid screaming. And they are more likely then to hand over the iPad when the kid is throwing a tantrum because they do not want to hear the kid screaming. We could talk about parenting in the developmental section. It's an easy way out, but that parent has just been negatively reinforced, right? I, as the parent, am more likely to repeat that behavior, just give you the dang iPad so that you will stop screaming, subtracting something unpleasant. If you're training show horses, if you've ever seen show horses, some of them, the way that they walk, where they're like bouncing their head up and down in the rhythm to how they're walking, you get that by way of negative reinforcement. Some of those horses, the way they're trained is they'll tie a thing around one of their legs and attach that somewhere on their bridle. So what happens is whenever their leg goes down, it creates a really unpleasant pulling sensation on their mouth unless they also lower their head in rhythm to how they're walking, right? So whenever they move their head down, it takes away that pulling sensation. And that's how you get that walking motion of them moving their head in rhythm with their feet. That is a negative reinforcement. I've taken away something unpleasant. I've taken away that unpleasant feeling of pulling on the horse's bridle in order to get them to repeat that behavior of moving their head in line with their feet. So those are the easiest ways to differentiate punishments from reinforcements and positives from negatives. Video 2 is going to be about conditioned and unconditioned stimuli and responses.